at that point in time. And as we were sitting around talking about it, it just one by one, different people saying, well, my wife left me 5 years ago. I don't speak to my child. You know, all these different horror stories of all these actors who had pursued theater careers. Because in the United States, there is no safety net, essentially, for actors in the theater community. And so, you know, you go off to a great production of some show, you're making $500 a week, your agent's getting 10%, your manager's getting 10%, the government's taking 25%. By the time it's all over with, you're walking away with $200, $300, and that's one of the best regional theaters in the country. You know, there's just it's very, very difficult in the United States to make a living just doing theater. So I think some of that idealism was kind of thrown out the window shortly after that experience, and then I started to focus a little bit more on doing film and television. And you know, I mean, I always tell this story. I did 2 episodes of Grey's Anatomy when I was starting out, and those 2 episodes of Grey's Anatomy paid me more money than the 6 years I did doing theater. So that'll kind of tell you how it works.
That would help you navigate.
Yeah, that'll make the decision a little bit easier, I think.
Yeah. So what was like your foray in video games? What was it like, your conscious decision, or did it flow like naturally with voice work?
Well, one of the things that I love about doing voiceover work, I mean, for instance, this game, I mean, I'm 45 years old. I'm playing a hotshot pilot in World War II, and I don't think that anyone would necessarily...
That must feel good.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would cast me as that on camera, you know, even though we're using my face. I think Wade is a little bit younger looking than I am. But that's one of the joys of doing voiceover work, is you get to play these characters that you would never in a million years get to play on camera. I think the first voiceover gig I booked, because it was really something that kind of fell into. My manager had asked me if it was something I'd be interested in, and I was like, yeah, why not? And I started auditioning for voiceovers probably about 12 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And the first gig I booked was a game called Dishonored, and I played a
great game, man.
Thank you. And I got to play this character, Trevor Pendleton.
Yeah.
In the rendering he looked a little bit like Steve Buscemi, you know? And I remember...
Well, it's a very stylized game.
Yeah, it's a very stylized game, but I remember thinking, what if I made the character like a little bit of feet, you know? And so he kind of talked like this, and everything he said was up in here. And even in you know, I had like a little cane that I would carry when I was doing the voiceover. And
I'm having flashbacks, man.
Yeah, so just that opportunity to play this character where I would never get the chance to play this guy. I don't look anything like that. I've got this oversized neck, and I look like I was, you know, built to be a football player or something. So I would have never gotten a chance to play a character like that, but vocally I can do it. And that was just a real fun experience for me. And from that point on, it kind of opened this door of for voiceover work. And I've just, man, it's been such a joy getting to do this stuff. It's just fun. I mean, as an actor, it's just fun. I don't care what anyone says.
It gives you a lot more freedom to be different characters, and you're not sort of just stuck to what you look like physically. You know, you can just go wild with it, can't you?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yes, and you are talking that you can portray characters that don't look like you. Can you see the technology like coming to films? Because at some point we'll be at the level when we can like make photorealistic characters. I mean, what is your perspective on that?
Oh, I 100% think that that's going to happen. I mean, it's already happening. You know, I mean, when you look at characters like Gollum 10 years ago, you know, I mean, but that technology as it advances, I think the limitations on what you look like, and, you know, here's another thing. I'm 5'8", you know, like when I'm standing next to everyone else in the cast on this game, besides Laura, I'm like, I mean, Martin Copping's probably like 6'1", 6'2". Chike, I want to say, is probably 6'2". So compared to those guys, like when I'm standing next to him, I'm tiny. But in the game, we're all the same height. So that in and of itself is a wonderful thing. So yeah, I do think that I mean, that technology is not immediately here, but it's around the corner, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be kind of a game changer. One of the things I really enjoyed about this is that all the actors in it are amazing. And it's something that, for whatever reason, they haven't had the same kind of success on camera that they've had with voiceover work. From my experience, a lot of the actors that you work with doing voiceovers, a lot of them are really, really talented. Uh, this isn't the case on this game, but some of them have what you would call a face for radio, and that really prevented them from having the careers that I think that they should. You know.
Yeah.
One question I had. You mentioned you were in games like Dishonored, The Last of Us 2, etc. I actually had no idea until I did research for this interview that you were Abby's father in The Last of Us 2, who was also played by Laura Bailey as well.
Yeah.
So obviously Laura as well as Martin, and I'm not sure if Chike did video game stuff before.
I'm not sure what Chike's background is in video games. I know that this was the first time that Chike had ever done performance capture, though. Yeah,
because I know Paul said at the beginning that the main characters of the game, the four of them have such excellent chemistry in the game when we see them. So how was it working alongside in person with Laura, Chike, and Martin?
Well, I mean, Laura's just amazing. I've worked with Laura now on 3 different projects, and Laura's just, there's a reason why Laura works the way Laura works. And she's just as talented as she is as an actress. That's how much fun she is, and great as a person. I mean, she's so cool, man. But this whole thing, that was my point. I had just gotten done working on something, and there were 5 other actors in a scene. So I'll give you this example. I won't tell you what the project was, but there was a project I just got done working on. It was on camera. We had 5 actors in the scene, and they say, and action. And it was like my line, beat, somebody else's line, beat, somebody jumps their line, and then the whole entire scene fell apart. Then we get in on this, which is like 2 days after. And it was like boom, 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 boom. Immediately, everyone was playing off of each other. Yeah. And I think a lot of that comes from all these people that we're working with kind of having a theater background. And that, man, it makes a huge difference. People understand pacing. People understand timing. So right off the bat, I think the chemistry on this was just it was just there. And that, I think, is a testament to, JB Blanc, who was our director on this. I mean, that was a huge.
The chemistry really shows, I think, especially in the cinematics. It's absolutely brilliant. I think it's just.
Well, thanks, man.
It's nice to see that.
The cool thing about the cinematics that I don't think people really realize is you can't cut those. You know what I mean? So there are cuts that they do afterwards. I don't understand how that all works when they piece the scene together, because I'm just an actor. Yeah. But I do know when we're shooting it, there is no break. If somebody flubs a line, that take is busted. Yeah. So that was something that's kind of a different thing, but it's also a lot like doing theater once again, because you don't get a second go in theater. You just keep going. So all those scenes, it's just actors playing off actors. Yeah. A lot of times in film, the pace of a scene is dictated by an editor. But in this, the pace of the scene, as in theater, is dictated by the director directing actors, and those actors essentially making that pace happen on the day in real time.
When you're working on a scene with actors, do you know specifically which one is a cinematic and which one is in gameplay moment?
We do know that. But it was one of those things as an actor and being fairly new. I mean, this is only the second time I've done performance capture. There's a lot of explaining that has to be done to the actors or for the actors. For instance, okay, this is what's happening. This is, they're explaining the whole entire world to you as you're sitting there, So there's going to be a jail cell, and the jail cell door is going to be right here, and that opens in here. And when it goes, because as I said, 90% of this stuff is taped out in a big, huge open space. So you're basically just playing pretend as a grown-up.
I've heard that a couple of times already from other actors we've spoken to. It's like basically being a pretend soldier. I've heard that. Yeah.
Once you get over the ridiculousness of being in super tight spandex outfits and having a camera that's like in front of your face that moves everywhere that you move, having hands that kind of Velcro stick to each other. Once you get used to all that kind of craziness, it's just like doing theater, man. It's just play acting again,
Do you generally play games? Are you familiar with the industry or?
I do. I have to be careful because I get really easily addicted to them, and I'll find myself, I literally when I was on a TV show called Friday Night Lights, and Michael B. Jordan and I were both on that show at the same time. And this was probably 10 or 11 years ago. And I showed up to set one day. We were both playing Call of Duty at the time, like religiously. And I showed up to set one day and I was like, hey, man, I got a surprise for you in your trailer. And he was like, what? And he goes into his trailer and I bought us both headsets. So now we could play, like, this was like a new thing back then. This is, I said 10 years ago, it's probably 11 or 12 years ago. So actually having a headset, like for major gamers, they already had them. But for me, it was like, this is a big purchase. I got a headset now. So we would sit there and play all hours of the night. But then I remember one day specifically, I came to set and I walk into the hair and makeup trailer, and the girls in the makeup trailer, like the makeup girl was like, what the hell's wrong with you? And I'm like, what? And she's like, your eyes are bloodshot. And I'm like, oh, yeah, Mike and I were playing Call of Duty till like 4:00 in the morning last night. So I literally had like bloodshot red eyes. I looked like I'd been out boozing. And the reality is I was just up playing Call of Duty all night. So yeah, I have to be careful because I get easily addicted to these games and will basically take everything off my schedule for a week if I'm not careful.
Probably tried to play yourself. I mean, have you played?
I have played, and it's here's the thing though, I play religiously, but I'm not good.
That's fine.
You don't need to be good as long as you're having fun. That's all that matters.
Yeah, it kind of matters when you got 12-year-olds giving you crap online. But yeah, the first I at the premiere I got to play as myself, which sounds weird. Yeah, I got to play as my character in the game, and literally it was multiplayer. And the first thing I did is throw a grenade, run right into it, and blow myself up. So while there were like professional gamers standing around watching, and they were just like, "Dude, look at this noob." I felt like such a jackass, but yeah.
that was us last night, Paul, wasn't it? Just taking the grenades.
I was just throwing grenades at people straight at them and killing myself on purpose doing it. It's a lot of fun.
It's so much fun though. Yeah, that's the other thing. I've got a nephew who's like a diehard Call of Duty fan now too. So, and he's way better than I am, man. He's only like 11 years old, but he crushes me in this game. And then he talks a bunch of smack too while he's doing it. So that
sounds very Call of Duty like anyway.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how happy he is? He can play as his uncle.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, this is the first time I've actually felt cool with this kid. I did this movie a couple years back called 42, and there's a scene in it. Harrison Ford's in it, and I got to have a couple scenes with Harrison Ford. And my nephew, this was like 2 years ago. My nephew was he was going through one of those phases, and like his big phase at this point in time before Call of Duty was Star Wars, like in love with Star Wars, and everything was Star Wars that Christmas. So I was home, and my brother, who's his father, obviously, I said, dude, if he loves Star Wars, we got to show him the scenes of me with Harrison Ford. And so I go, and his name's actually Harrison too, my nephew. So I go, Harrison, I said, I worked with Han Solo. And he goes, what? And I go, I worked with Han Solo. He goes, no, you didn't. And I go, yes, I did. And I said, Ryan, my little brother's name is Ryan. I said, Ryan, put on 42. And we put it on, and here's my scene with Harrison Ford. And he goes, that's not Han Solo. And I go, that is Han Solo. And he goes, that's not Han Solo. And I go, that's Harrison Ford. And he goes, yeah, but it's not Han Solo. And he goes, can I play my game now? And I'm like, I'm going to kill this kid. So the idea that I'm in Call of Duty now is kind of a big deal. And I think finally I've gotten the cool card from this 11-year-old, which is basically all my career is boiled down to, is trying to impress an 11-year-old kid.
Yeah. You have him now.
Yeah.
Another question I actually had. Funny that you mentioned Harrison Ford and Han Solo, because I was actually chatting to Paul and Mev last night about what kind of questions to ask for this interview. And one of the questions I had actually was, while I was playing Vanguard, the campaign, one of the first things I've noticed after playing as Wade and his missions, one of the first things that I thought was, maybe it's just me, but I thought, I'm getting very strong Han Solo vibes from Derek's portrayal of Wade, very roguish pilot sort of thing. While you were preparing for the role for Wade, did you get any inspiration from...
Yes. 100%. I mean, I tried to think of, all right, when I went in for this, I said, who is the coolest person I know? And who is like the coolest guy on the planet? And like, it's Han Solo. But there's something that I love about Harrison Ford. I mean, just in general, and what I love about Han Solo is he's never afraid to let the reality of the situation. Like he a lot of action stars won't play scared, and he'll play scared. He'll play up the emotion. He'll let you know that he's afraid of something, but he's still cool doing it. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a huge compliment. Thank you very much. Cause it was definitely, in the back of my mind to have this guy have a little bit of a Han Solo-esque kind of vibe.
It definitely shines through in the gameplay, and it's excellent.
That's a huge compliment. Thank you very much.
Also, about yes, you probably were inspired by Han Solo, but the character itself is himself is based on a real person. Were you like? Did it affect your performance? How you approached it? Did you feel like a responsibility for the actual person?
For sure, man. Well, that was one of the things. Once I got the game, I didn't know that when we were going into it, but we had a big meeting before we started shooting, a Zoom meeting where all of us were on. It was me and Chike and Laura and Marty. And basically, they went through and just told us who all of our characters are, and that all of our characters were actually based on real people.
Yeah.
And that was something that kind of blew my mind. I didn't know that. But then when I read up about the character, I obviously realized that the character is based off the character that was in the movie Midway as well. And I hadn't seen Midway at that point in time. So I went and watched Midway just to have some kind of idea of what it would look like. Because once again, as I said, when you're working on these games, they'll show you a lot of pictures of, okay, the jail is going to look like this. And the scenes for Midway, there'll be a still photography thing of what it may look like. But you really don't have a concept for it until you see the game a lot of times, you know. A good director will kind of explain all these things for you, you know. And JB Blank and Dave Swenson did a really good job of explaining kind of how the game was going to look and what these scenes were going to look like. But watching Midway was kind of a huge help, even though, you know, the movie's kind of out there and crazy. It was like, okay, this is what it's going to look like, and this is what the Battle of Midway looked like, because I think they did really kind of nail, you know, it was a sunny day, it was, you know, it was a daytime battle,
very,
you know,
very
all that
accurate
kind of stuff.
to the source, definitely.
Bombing sequences look really as tense in the movie, and you can imagine like those.
It felt like they were kind of ripped from the movie, weren't they? They definitely took a lot of inspiration from the movie, and it really showed.
Oh, I think they probably definitely did.
It's
Cool. So we talk about like flying, and what was your favorite moment to act, like piloting, maybe shooting guys or something like that? What was like the most fun thing to do on set?
The most fun thing to do on set, any of the scenes that we had with all of us as a big group, those are always fun scenes just because it's just good energy. But I also enjoyed the scenes, you know, the scene that I have with Dominic Monaghan where he's interrogating me. That was just fun to play. It felt a little bit like the scene in Last Boy Scout. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that movie. It's probably about 20, God, probably older than that at this point. But Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans. And there's a scene in it where somebody punches a cigarette out of Bruce Willis's mouth, and he says something along the lines of like, "Touch me again and I'll fucking kill you." And that was a little bit similar to what was going on in that scene with Dominic Monaghan. So, and that was just cool to work with Dom.
Yeah, those scenes are really they're a bit intense, but a bit playful, especially with your character. Were there like improvising or something like that going on?
No improvising on this, because you got to be so specific with these lines. Now there are times where you could go to. It's not like everything was, you know, written in stone. We could talk about a scene and be like, hey, you know, would it be okay if I change this? Or they were pretty open to us making it feel more realistic or whatever. But in terms of improvising, pretty strict because you have to maintain some. It has to stay the same, basically.
Okay. First time I saw you in a trailer, your character, I realized that I already seen you actually on camera. There's this short film you did, a play. It's a really great short film, and it's about criticism, in general and specific, like the modern criticism. How is your views? Like the media has changed, and everybody has a voice now, and especially gamers can be very vocal about their opinions on the performance on a game. Do you have like any mechanisms how you deal with it, and what is your general views on this state of criticism today?
Look, I mean, I have no problem with people having opinions and having strong opinions about games, or anything artistic. I have strong opinions about things. I mean, there are definitely movies that I like and movies that I don't like and games that I've played that I think are terrible. I do think Twitter can be a little crazy at times. Some of the things that people say. Look, I just try to live my life at this point by being constructive in my criticism of things. There are things where it gets down to race and death threats and things like that I just
no need
that's
for that.
crossing the line. And we had that when I was doing The Last of Us 2. Just some of the stuff. Look, if you don't like the game, that's fine, man. You can get on my page all day long and tell me how terrible the game is, but when you start threatening people's lives, I think that's when you're crossing the line.
No need,
of course.
And I mean, I get people being adamant about it, and I get people being pissed off that The Last of Us 2 didn't go the way that they wanted it to, or whatever else. That's stuff that we can have conversation about. But as I said, there came a point. Some of the stuff that they were doing to Laura, some of the stuff that they, things that they said about and to Neil Druckmann, threatening people's lives and families. That shit, that's not.
Yeah, that game took risks, and it's actually. In a right sense, it is rewarding. Like you should celebrate that games taking risks, because we can't.
I thought the game was brilliant. I thought it was. I remember when Neil pulled me aside and told me that they were going to keep me around for the second game, because I did actually play the Doctor in the first game.
Wow!
Tiny little part.
My God.
That was such a crazy process for me. So I got cast to play a different part in the original Last of Us. And you guys know how long it takes to make these games. I mean, sometimes it's 2, 3, 4 years. And I got this part, and like 6 months went by, and I called my manager and I said, "Hey, whatever happened with that Sony game that I booked, that Last of Us game?" At this point, nobody knew what the heck this thing was. She called them and they said, "Yeah, you're still on board. They're going to call you. It just takes a while." And then like another 6 months went by, and then finally like a year and a half went by, and they called and they said, "Hey, look, that character's kind of changed now. It's not really the same character as it was. We'd still love to have you be a part of this. It's going to be a much smaller character." So I wound up doing like multiple voices in the game, and then I played the Doctor in the end of the game. I was happy to just be a part of it. Didn't really think much of it. And then I didn't even know they were doing a second Last of Us. I played the original one, which I thought was brilliant. Still to this day, one of the best games I've ever played in my life. And then the second one, Neil Druckmann called me on the phone. And I came into his office, and he talked to me about this character and how they were going to. And I was like, "This is amazing." And Neil told me about his story, being Israeli, and he wanted to tell the story essentially of how vengeance and revenge, an eye for an eye makes all of us blind, kind of being the moral of this story. And I thought that's a brilliant idea. Now, I also understand people being upset at the fact, spoiler alert, that some things happen. I won't even say, but some things happen in that game. And I understand people being upset by it. But, man, I thought it was a brilliant story choice and a wonderful risk to take. And I'm glad that they did. But I also understand people's anger and vitriol. I think it's great storytelling.
Yeah, your character in that game is like, it's a very crucial role. It might not be big role, but it's crucial. It's a catalyst for the whole story. Does it like affect you, like when you approach the role? Like, sometimes that's you have like momentary effect on the story, but that effect is big on the whole story. What 100%. Is your process there?
This was a major role because of, as you said, it's a major catalyst. It sets everything in motion. It creates the Abby character. It's the reason why Abby does what Abby does is what happens to my character. So knowing that going into it, you have a big responsibility there. The other thing is I'm coming in. These guys have been working on this thing for 3 or 4 months, these other actors. this crew has been working on it for 4 years, probably, maybe even longer. So and you're coming in, you're basically the new guy. Don't screw this up. So coming into that, I just wanted one thing to come across, that I loved Abby. And that Abby loved her father. I think that that's extremely important. Once we realize that this person has another life, that Abby has another life, because when what happens with Joel happens, like all of us, we're sitting there going, I want to kill this, you want to kill this person. Then you realize, wait, she had a family, she had a life, she had people that she cared about, and it just turns everything on its ear. So yeah, there's a major responsibility there, I think, as an actor. And I'm glad that Neil trusted me to have that.
Fantastic storytelling, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally, I don't enjoy that genre of game, but I do respect the storytelling and what they're trying to build in within that game. It's really something to respect, definitely. It's
I was talking to JB Blanc about this the other day, and this is something that I think is really interesting about where video games are going. If you know anything about like theater history, back in the day, they used to make musicals. They grab a bunch of songs together, put them together, and then they kind of write story around it, and that's kind of how musical theater started. A bunch of songs that were already created, and they'd throw them into one thing and then just write story and try to connect the dots. And I feel like in some respects, that's kind of how video games started. It's like you got a bunch of battle scenes or whatever and explosions. We know that we want this. We know that we want these guys fighting here, here, and here. And that's one of the things that I think is kind of fascinating and fun about this new Call of Duty is all this stuff is now being written together. And it's the same thing that happened with The Last of Us. It's like we've got this storyline, but this is how it connects. And it's all being written at once, as opposed to, okay, we got this big battle scene. Now we got to write a narrative to try and tie it all together. All that stuff's being created at once now, which I think makes for better narrative. It makes for better storytelling as a whole. And so it's kind of fascinating to watch that same thing happen in the video game world, being a kind of a student of the theater. And I feel like we're only at the infancy of that. I think the stories are just going to get better as the technology gets better, as the actors get better, as the technology to film actors gets better. It's really exciting. And so I'm excited to be one of the actors who's gotten to do some of this performance capture stuff, because I know a lot of actors haven't, and there is a bit of a learning curve for it. It's different. When you get done with a scene, you got to do a thing called the T-pose, and it's the minute you walk off the volume, you're off. They can't record you anymore. So there's a learning curve. Things like being sure that you know all your lines perfectly backwards and forwards when you go in, because there is no way to cut. So it's definitely a learning curve, but it's fun, man. I really enjoy the hell out of it.
So if we bring back a bit more about your getting into Call of Duty, what did you sort of see like a project that was looking for a voiceover, or did your manager or did someone approach you from Activision? Or
so the agents will submit you for stuff like this, and man, this is one of those, as I told you guys before, I've been playing Call of Duty, I mean, as far back as 11 years ago, but I remember the original Call of Duty. So I've been playing Call of Duty for years, and this has just been a game and a franchise that I've wanted to be a part of for so long. And the way it kind of happened, I've auditioned for Call of Duty probably 9 times at this point for different variations throughout the years. Yeah. The casting director on the games is a woman named Ivy Eisenberg, and Ivy's been a big fan of mine, but for whatever reason, it hasn't happened. Maybe there was another guy that was right or better for a part. So it was one of these things where it was like year after year, I'd audition for Call of Duty, I'd get close, and then somebody else would get it. And so it's really random the way it happened this year. I had a audition for the last Call of Duty that came out, Black Ops Cold War, and had a small part in that one. And then like a week later, I got another Call of Duty audition. I'm like, what's going on here?
Of course, you're talking about Raptor 1 for anyone that is unaware,
Raptor 1,
which, by the way, is a fan favorite especially of the group.
Crazy,
he's definitely. It's weird because the people that have no lines in Call of Duty games seem to be popular. The ones with short lines seem to be quite popular. So
Raptor 1's got his own little fan page thing going on.
Oh yeah, he's definitely got a following. Definitely,
I love it. And
So
all
obviously,
from being
was
like,
that connected then, the two? Like you did Raptor 1, and then they thought
it's the
maybe
same
you would be
casting
good for
director.
this. Yeah.
It's the same casting director. And maybe I'd have to talk to Ivy. I don't know how it played out, but I do remember I got Raptor 1. And then I wound up getting an audition for this one, and got a call back. And Ivy told me, called me personally and said, "Hey, this is exactly what they're looking for." Excuse me, gave me some pointers, which is very rare that a casting director actually does that. So I'm very thankful to Ivy for those pointers. And then it just kind of happened, and I was just super excited because I've always been a fan of these games.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
Relating to the theme of as you mentioned before with storyline narratives, you mentioned how a lot of with Last of Us 2, for example, it took risks. Going back to with the Call of Duty, you said you're with Call of Duty since day one, basically with the original. I think myself and Paul, I don't know about you, Mev, but a lot of us in Price Person, we've been there since day one as well. I remember getting the original game for my 10th birthday because it came out on my 10th
I remember
birthday.
renting it from Blockbuster.
Yeah. Right. I remember Blockbuster.
And
Good Lord.
it's just amazing to see how, from a Medal of Honor style game that came out in 2003, like 18 years ago now.
Yeah.
Now we're at from a game that started out as you just a faceless, voiceless soldier just fighting alongside other random AI members against German soldiers, etc. Now we're getting full-fledged universes like the Modern Warfare, Black Ops, Vanguard, I think World War II as well. They're all meshed into some one huge continuity narrative that's got mind blowing. Now we've got the whole zombies thing going on as well. Yeah. So is it especially as someone who's been with Call of Duty since day one, is it kind of strange to see how far the franchise has come, especially in the campaign, how the storylines just evolved into something insane?
You know what I'll do? Like once every 6 months is I'll go back. You can go on like YouTube and find a clip of like Call of Duty Through the Ages. And it's fun to do that. Just go through and like look at like the original Call of Duty into where we are now. It's nuts. I mean, it's crazy to me. I'm in this business and I'm still blown away every time. I mean, I just got to play the full game finally in the past week. And I'm sitting there and I was with Marty, came over to my house and we were playing it. And we're just both sitting here like, dude, can you believe this? It's friggin' nuts. I mean, that's Marty, that's the thing. I'm sitting there going, dude, that's you. Except you're way cooler looking on there than you are in real life.
We're speaking to Martin on Friday, actually. So.
Yeah, I know. You got to give him shit for me. I love that guy. I love him, but I love giving him shit too. He's a good dude, man. And this has just been, as I said, this was just a ridiculously fun project. And I feel like I got a friend for life after this with Marty.
So that chemistry flowed in real life from the game.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
Of course, you have worked with a couple of Call of Duty actors already. Chad Michael Collins as well said that he'd worked with you on a project as well. So he mentioned that to us as well, which is great.
I did a TV show called Shooter with Chad, and Chad's a good dude, man. He's a good actor.
He's brilliant. Yeah, we had a good time with Chad.
I got to pistol whip him in that, which was fun.
Yeah, we had a good time with Chad. He was brilliant.
Very talented guy. Yeah, he was fun to work with. And he's been so supportive of this because I actually did reach out to him a couple of times saying, hey, man, they're asking me to do this or do I... So one of the things you have to do, like, there's all this stuff that you just don't understand as an actor. You know what I mean? If you've never done this before. But like one of the things I had to do is I had to go in and they do like a facial capture thing where you basically are sitting like this close to a camera and you're going, the sly brown fox ran over the, whatever that thing is. I don't know what they call those. And you do it one way like that. And then you do it another way where you go, the sly brown fox ran over the, the sly brown. And you got to do it happy. You got to do it sad. You got to do all these different ways so that they can match all these facial expressions that your face will do. And they sent me this like monologue of this like 2 days before I was supposed to go in. And I called Chad and I'm like, dude, do I have to have this memorized? Like, because it was all a bunch of like weird stuff, non sequitur words that were like pieced together, that all of them together make up all the motions of your mouth. And Chad's like, no, dude, you don't have to have that memorized. I'll have a copy of it when you get there. And I'm like, okay, cool. But like, he kind of helped me out because he's obviously done this. So his advice and his help was kind of invaluable when we were starting out on this. Yeah. And he's been so supportive of just Marty and I both being a part of this. I think Marty had him on his Twitch the other day.
It's great. So you portrayed World War II character here. Is there other eras, maybe World War One, maybe futuristic, you would like to play character set in?
I just want to do everything, man. I mean, like that's the thing that's so exciting about this, is that you can do anything. Yeah. The only limitations are the limitations that you have as an actor, frankly. You know, what are the limitations you have vocally? Yeah. What are the limitations you have? And that's something that's so exciting about this. As I said before, I mean, it's not just the opportunity to play characters that you wouldn't get a chance to play, but I mean, ages that you wouldn't get to play. I mean, I just literally right before I came on with you guys, I had an audition for a new project. I can't talk about what it is, but I was literally recording myself earlier.
We are getting a scoop, guys.
Yeah. I don't even know what it is. That's the other thing about these games is half the time you don't know what you're auditioning for.
Was it like to do like a project sort of whatever, like, you know, a name? Is it? They don't,
code names.
Yeah, code name for it, yeah.
Half the time, like there are times just because I am a bit of a gamer, like I'll know what it is beforehand. Like Call of Duty, they never tell you it's a Call of Duty game, but I know Ivy Eisenberg cast Call of Duty, and when it's a bunch of military stuff, it's like you're doing some math. You're going, okay, there's a very good chance this is the next Call of Duty game. But this one, I don't know specifically what the project was, but the character was like a 20-year-old guy, and so just the idea that I'm going to play a 20-year-old, you know. And all you basically do is just kind of raise your voice up just a little bit. So you're talking just a little bit more like this, as opposed to talking in my natural voice, which is just a little bit deeper, you know? But yeah, man, there's so much freedom just to play. I'm doing a game right now. Once again, I can't talk about, but I'm playing an alien, and it's crazy. And it's great. And he's green, and that's all I can tell you.
Okay,
and he might not be green by the time it comes out.
All right, everyone get Google out and try and search for a green alien.
Fans are making like connecting red dots and casting.
Good luck, because I don't even know what it is at this point in time.
Speaking about aliens as well. Again, something I didn't know until I researched your career. You were also Winter in Aliens: Colonial Marines, who's like one of our favorite franchises.
Yeah, speaking of ones where you get a lot of bad feedback on. Yeah, that was. I don't know if that was. I said Dishonored. Yeah, Dishonored was the first one, and I feel like Aliens: Colonial Marines was literally like the second one. And I got to work with Travis on that one, who's Laura Bailey's husband. So I the first time I saw Travis since was literally at the premiere the other night. And he goes, "This one's a little bit better than the last one, eh?" I can't do Travis's voice. That guy, I don't know how that guy's voice is as deep as it is. But yeah, it was. That'll kind of tell you what's going on. So, this is how video games kind of work: is you'll audition for something. They're so secretive about everything. Excuse me. So, I'm doing Aliens: Colonial Marines, and I'm in the booth recording, and at one point, my character says something about Wailing Yutani. And I go, "Guys, is this an alien game?" And I hear, and they're whispering to each other. Not whispering, I can't hear them because they turned their mics off. And I'm in the booth. And I go, "Yeah, it's an alien game." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I go, real quick, am I the lead?" And they're like, "Yes, you're the lead." And I'm like, "Okay, that would have been nice to know." We were in, I think that was my 4th session on that game, and I still didn't know anything about it. And I'm like, "Oh, that might be part of the problem with Aliens."
So there were signs.
Yes, but no one told me I was in an alien game until literally like my 3rd or 4th session, and it's only because of the fact that I said something about Wailing Yutani, and I'm like, Wayland Yutani's Alien universe. Is this an Alien game? That I found out that I was actually in an Alien game. I feel like things have gotten better in the industry at this point in time. Once you book a game, they tell you what it is now. But I think back in the day, they were very secretive because they were afraid of leaks, and we're still afraid of leaks. I mean, Last of Us 2 got leaked, and it pisses me off that people ruin that for everyone. But it's partially because of leaks, but then also partially because of the fact it's like they don't want to tell you how big your part is because you'll ask for more money.
I mean, with Last of Us, it actually was even better because people got that spoiler out of context, and I think people will be like more accepting if they saw that in a game and in a right context, and that kind of was detrimental to that situation.
Yeah, I agree, and it's, you know, you got people that saw the spoiler, and then at that point, we're so pissed off they're like, I'm not playing the game. And it's like, but if you played the game, I think maybe you would understand why this happens. You know, but that's the problem with the spoilers. It's frustrating to me because I'm the last piece of the puzzle that gets put into this as an actor. There are guys and gals that have been working on these games for 5, 6, sometimes 7 years, and to have that ruined, it just, I don't know. That pisses me off. It's another thing that pisses me off as I get older. There's a lot of things that piss me
off. We were chatting. I mean, with Last of Us 2, and as you mentioned with Colonial Marines, there was there was a chunk of the gaming community who had some negative feedback about whether it's the story of The Last of Us 2 or the technical issues of Colonial Marines. But personally, like, I actually didn't mind Colonial Marines. I actually thought thought it was. I mean, I bought it for like £5 brand new in one of our stores over here. Like, when was that released? Back in the day. Yeah. And for what it was, actually, I paid for a Aliens video game, and I got an Aliens video game. The bit that stands out to me most is one of the sewer missions. You're sort of creeping underground, just see it blind.
There were a lot of technical issues, and I feel like the other thing with Colonial Marines is I know that they'd shown some footage of like live in-game footage that didn't turn out to be the same. I don't know all the logistics of it because I'm not technically advanced enough to understand it all, but it was almost like they missold the product or something. I don't know.
I mean, they showed the game. They hoped they would be on a technical level, and they didn't achieve it, and that's actually kind of a problem with there are games that show that target rendering and don't judge you, and sometimes when expectations clash with reality, you get that effect.
But I get that, I get people being pissed off about it. They have a right to be pissed off about it, you know. It's basically the old swap, the sales swap, you know.
But do you feel like a sense of ownership, like it's not your fault, you did your best, and when game is kind of
look, man, I'm such a minor part of this when all things are considered. It really is. I mean, it takes a village to make these video games. But you definitely have a sense of ownership when it's good. And when it's not, you're like, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, though, I focus on what I have control over in these games, and that's my performance, and I really don't have a lot of control over a lot of the other stuff. So if it's great, that's awesome. I'm excited because it's good for me and it's good for everyone that gets to play it. And if it's not, you know, I'll try better next time. If I stink in it, then I have a problem with it. Yeah. And there have been some times where, you know, this is something that, as I said, I mean, this whole entire industry, it's changing and evolving so quickly. But there are times when I was starting out in this business, especially in the voiceover business, you'd get direction on something because you're not getting a full script sometimes, you know? So you don't know where you are or what's exactly going on. And then you actually play the game and you go, oh, I wish they would have explained that a little better, because if I would have known that that's what was going on, I would have played the scene a little bit differently. And I feel like that happened a lot. It didn't happen a lot, but it happened more frequently 10 years ago. It doesn't seem like that happens anymore. It's like now I feel like these directors are starting. I think that the communication between the technical aspect is getting better with the artistic side, or as far as like the communication with actors. You now have directors that have some experience working with actors and they know how to talk to actors. So if you just, I just need to know where we are. I need to know what the relationship with the other actor is or the other character is in that scene. And if you give me that, then that's going to give me, you know, I'm going to play a scene a lot differently if we're sitting here having this conversation and we're in a living room versus a battlefield. You know what I mean? Where there's bombs going off around us. And so now I feel like the directors have gotten really, really good of setting up this whole entire environment. You know, okay, here's what's going on. You're on a spaceship and the spaceship's going 1,000 miles an hour and you're being blasted at back and forth and there's bombs going off everywhere, blah, 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 blah. And there's a fire in the cabin and you're there with your girlfriend and she's bleeding. Oh, okay. Well, now I know what's happening in this scene. And I don't feel like some of that is established early on. I don't think maybe they knew that that's what actors needed to do a scene. And now that we know that, it makes it a lot easier. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here.
What you're talking about is actually really maybe a good side about video games, their versatility, because at the end of the day, if the game designer sees that scene isn't working, he can like change the entire scenario around like actors and make it a different scene. And I think as that develops, there'll be a better communication with actors, and you can if scene changed, you can change your performance and quality. That's actually a fascinating idea. Yeah,
I feel like that's been the biggest change I've seen from when I started in this 10, 11 years ago to now is these guys do such a good job of painting the whole entire picture for you. You know, I mean, as I said, Dave Swenson on this Call of Duty game and JD Blank on this Call of Duty game, like these guys made it like I can see the world now. I know where I am, what's going on, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And how and obviously you can't speak about what your future projects are, this non-disclosure agreements, etc. So are there any video game franchises out there that you would like to be a part of in the future?
I mean, I had such a good time working with the guys over at Naughty Dog. I'd love to be really I know it's not a franchise necessarily, but I'd love to be a part of just about anything that they're working on over there, because I think what they're doing is pretty groundbreaking. But yeah.
Well, we were speaking about the character, about the real person your character is, but he actually served in Vietnam, so maybe there's a possibility.
Well, I do know this, and
Okay.
I mean, I know that Dave Swenson had said that there were rumors potentially that they would like to see our guys come back. These characters, Task Force One from Call of Duty Vanguard, and I'm sitting here with crossed fingers, hoping that that's the case, because I know I would love to have an opportunity to work with all these guys again. So that's a franchise I would definitely like to be a part of, is this franchise again.
I think a lot of people as well would like to see the group as you know, a lot more on in game as well. You know, working together. I'd love to see how that would play out. Definitely, I think a lot of people would like to see that, because a lot of it was cinematic, and then obviously it was sort of in the past. Sort of breaking down what they're building up to.
And if you finish the campaign at this point, I think there's some potential there. I mean, it's pretty much open at the end that maybe these guys are going to go have some more adventures together and do some more stuff. So, from your mouth to God's ears, I'm hoping that's the case. I'd just love to get back in there and work with all those guys again, except for Marty.
We are going to tell him that.
Yeah, please. I want to work with everyone except for Marty. Marty Coppin. Yeah.
So what advice will you give like upcoming actors and who will want to work in industry?
I think the most important thing, and the most important thing I've learned in this business, as I said, being a 45-year-old guy, is you just got to have tenacity. It's just a stick-to-itiveness. There are going to be a lot of rainy days. There's going to be a lot of times where you're out of work, a lot of times where you don't know where your next check is coming from. And I feel like the most important thing is just to have that eye on the prize and keep moving forward. because this really is a game of attrition in some respects. There's a lot of people when I started out at 20 years old doing this that just aren't in the business anymore, and over time it just kind of whittles away, and it's like, hire that jackass. He's been around long enough. I feel like that's kind of how it goes, and at this point I work very consistently, and I've got a great life, and I'm so thankful that I get to do what I love on a daily basis. It really is just a blessing, and I don't know that 21-year-old me who was waiting tables in New York and bartending and taking any odd job you could get could have seen the forest through the trees at that point in time. I think it would have made my life a lot. I'd have been a lot happier if I would have known that this is where I was going to end up. But it's also part of just enjoying the journey. I think we get so caught up in the destination and where we want to be that sometimes we forget that all that stuff that's happening along the way is, if you stop and take the time, there's some pretty great moments there too. So
that's good.
I think that's the biggest thing. Just stay tenacious. Don't give up.
Very good.
Has anyone got any more questions to ask Derek?
I've got one question from Mevlid. Is that I like that jacket. It looks a lot like.
I'm in a cosplay. Yes, it's Airborne Division.
All right, just making sure. So it could be that, but it's also you look a little bit like my character from Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Elder Maxon with the beard. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah, man. Hey, Elder Maxon was a good-looking dude.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many people sent me videos of them beating the crap out of Elder Maxon and leaving him dead on the floor in his underwear after they stole his jacket.
Can you confirm or deny that he is a synth, though?
Yes. Yeah.
Is he a synth or is he real? That's the
man. You got me on that one. I think
I am real.
Because I think it'd be great if he is a synth because, the guy spends his whole entire life trying to kill every synth he comes into
poetic justice.
So yeah,
it'd be great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Poetic justice. Yeah,
we are getting back to Harrison Ford, speaking. Was he real or not?
What was that?
We are getting back to Harrison Ford, in bed, and people still argue, is he real or not?
Exactly. Well, thank you guys. This was fun.
Oh, no,
yeah.
Pleasure.
Good luck with everything.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for reaching out.
Talking to us. Really, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
And we are going to continue to play as you in the game.
Yes.
Please do. Yeah, don't ever play as Marty. Whatever you do, don't play as Marty.
No.
Switch operator now.
Yeah. He had, I don't know what he's doing, but he had a bunch of his fans go on my Instagram page and talk about how much they love Marty. I posted some picture of me and they're like, yeah, you're good or whatever, but Marty's 10 times better than you. This kind of stuff that this guy pulls on a regular basis, I've had enough of it.
Okay, I want this art imitating life and this rivalry be in the next game. This is material for a sequel.
Yeah. Freaking Marty. Stupid.
Thank you so much, Derek.
All right,
thank you very much.
So much for having me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you
later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
There you go. Yep, we're clear.
Oh, that's.
That was a lot of fun.
I think it was nice.
I think it's one